White House today, of course, launching Cheddar's coverage of the business of government. Jon, we're so glad that you're in front of the White House. We know that we picked a big, huge week to launch our D.C. coverage. There's a lot going on. I know you're specifically going to be focused on what you can get out of possibly this tax announcement coming out on Wednesday.
That's right, Corey. And what's most surprising and exciting is on Friday, the president went to the Treasury Department and signed 2 orders or memos. Let me just walk you through what each of them was. The first was he signed one around ending too big to fail. The president's language was, these regulations enshrine too big to fail and encourage risky behavior. So he rolled back basically the bailout, or suggested a rollback of the bailouts that we saw in 2008. The other thing that he signed is an order for Secretary Mnuchin to review 2016 tax changes that impose an undue financial burden on American taxpayers. The real controversy around that one was that it also makes it easier for companies to invert, American companies to merge with international companies to shield their taxes by becoming an international entity as opposed to a domestic entity. That's really just one part of this overall rollback, but a lot of people have focused on that because it seems to run into contrast with what the president had said about buy American, make American, and moving jobs domestically.
Also, Jon, we know that this Saturday marks the 100-day anniversary of Trump being sworn in, and so to what extent do you think Sean Spicer is going to be speaking to this in the press briefings all this week? Of course, we know you're going to be at the one this afternoon there in the White House press briefing room, but of course we've seen Donald Trump take credit for many of the jobs added to big businesses here. To what extent do you think some of these pros are going to be projected here this week by Spicer?
Well, the president took great pains, I would say, including an interview he did with the AP on Saturday, to call the 100 days an arbitrary demarcator and to roll back any kind of stress or pressure around this 100-day milestone. And he's also called out the mainstream media and said that they've thrown down this kind of deadline or date to kind of put stress on him or measure up his accomplishments. However, he certainly is trying to push a lot of things through in 1 week. We've got to avoid the government shutdown on Friday, and at the end of last week he did announce that he would have the framework or the structure or the high levels of a tax plan or a tax transformation plan this Wednesday. So certainly a lot to try to get in there. That tax plan and that budget plan would also potentially involve the border wall. It would possibly have a secondary attempt for him to push through his health care bill. So it does seem like, in light of this 100 days, he's trying to push through quite a bit in this 1 week.
Yes, it definitely does. And I do want to just say that we know Mick Mulvaney, who is the head of the Office of Management and Budget Director, said over the weekend on Fox and Friends that the full proposal for taxes probably wouldn't be out until June. But this will be a rollout on Wednesday to highlight everything that they like, that they don't like, and what they want to do moving forward. Our own Jon Steinberg will be there all day, live from the White House in the press room, getting in questions, of course, about Cheddar's coverage of the business of government.
And Corey, on that point, you know, if on Wednesday, even if this is a broad strokes type thing, and he says we are definitively putting through the corporate tax rate cut, we're going to get rid of AMT in the tax bill, we're going to have this ability for certain Americans to put through a postcard to file their taxes, which is actually something Secretary Mnuchin reiterated over the weekend. I believe if any of this stuff gets announced, even at the highest levels on Wednesday, we're going to see a market uptick. I think right now all that's really built into the market is this idea of deregulation. So any positive swings we get around taxation, I think on Wednesday, even at broad strokes, would have a very positive market's impact.
A lot of eyes on that this week. Jon Steinberg in front of the White House, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching Cheddar on YouTube. For more clips of CEO and startup interviews, click one of the videos right here or subscribe to us to get our live alerts right here.